All right, back with Wolf Runner on another Bad Runner's Take. Again, the concept here is I called it Bad Runner's Take because, in proper self-deprecation, I say I'm a bad runner. But really the reality was a play on words here to say that these might be bad takes, but as is necessary in most climates, but especially climate, right now, you got to say this stuff out loud. It's super important to say the stuff out loud. And in trail, it's nice because there's a lot of benefit of the doubt going around. So we can get controversial here and talk about trail stuff or have opposing opinions or, offer just some bad takes, but we won't know they're bad until we say them out loud because they also might be good. And that's the risk that we're willing to take. Before we go any further, welcome. Glad you're here, Brian.
Absolutely.
How's your morning? I don't know if people know this. You get up at 5 a.m. to record. For me, it's 1. And I have a nice morning. You haven't done much but roll out of bed yet, right?
Yeah, 4:30, the alarm goes off. We get the lights fired up. It's getting colder in the morning out here, so that's good.
What is cold for Arizona?
Well, this morning it was like 39 Fahrenheit.
Oh, that's legit. That's legitimately cold.
Figure,
I was expecting you to say like 60.
No. And then you figure, Javelina was just 2 weeks ago and it was 100.
Oh.
So it's like, it doesn't, we don't just gracefully go into cold temperature. It's an ice bath. Yeah.
Okay. So out there in the desert, you're going to get those low lows. What's your high today?
It'll be like 63.
Damn, that's great. That's kind of what it is in Paris, but it's cloudy. But I mean, wildly runnable weather, not complaining. Miss that sunshine, that hot sun. I love those photos that you post of that hot sun. I don't know, do you run along a waterway, a cause? Where are you running when I see those photos?
Yeah, it's a canal. So yeah, it's a waterway. It's crushed gravel, uninterrupted traffic lights. Don't have to deal with that. And then I'm close enough to kind of the rural boundaries of the city. So once I get about 3 miles onto the canal, then I'm just out in the desert running along the waterway.
All right, and you're a lone wolf runner?
What's that?
You're a lone wolf runner?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. You ever encounter? Are you seeing big game out there? Is it just snakes? What are you encountering in the Phoenix Desert or in the Arizona?
Yeah, no, just small stuff. I mean, we get javelina into the city every now and then, so you'll see those guys running around.
Oh,
lots of coyotes. They're well fed out here with all the suburban moms that have chickens, so they're pretty nice looking coyotes. They usually don't bother you because they're so well fed. So that's the pack I run with basically, are the coyotes out here.
They eat the chickens and teach little kids important lessons about the circle of life.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. You sent this to me and I think it's a really great conversation, a really interesting conversation because I've lived it. So I'll intro it and you put some flesh around what you were thinking. But I mean, you posed it as, what do I think about in the middle of let's say it's easiest to concept in a 100-miler, but fill in the blank on whatever distance. This works down to the 10K. If you're running a 100-miler, but that race also offers 100K, what do you think about when they offer you a mid-race downgrade to a shorter distance so you can make the decision in the race and downgrade? Am I capturing the essence of the question?
Yeah, exactly. Just kind of like the DNF culture that surrounds the ultra trail running world. So I didn't know that this was a thing. I didn't know that there were races that advertised this option. Aravaipa has, a zero, drop down type of policy. So, where I run and race, it's not on my radar. So it just got me thinking, because and this is more, we're going to take both sides of the coin, right? The amateur impact and the elite impact, because I think it's two radically different concepts and how I think about it.
Yeah.
But this DNF thing, right? Like we're all, amateur hobbyists who have full-time jobs, right? We've got spouses, we've got families, we've got kids that we're juggling, and yet we're still pouring in every ounce of energy and free time into the sport. We're doing it for, 15 weeks, training blocks and beyond, right? We're stacking training blocks year over year. And it's like you invest all of this, right? Energy and effort and time, not not even considering the money that you invest into the race. And a lot of people are doing it for healthy reasons, mentally, physically, addiction avoidance, everything, right? And you go to this race, and for one reason or another, 100 milers are freaking hard, right? So
Yeah.
you end up not being able to get it done. What do you get? You get a DNF, right? A DNF. It's a failure. And it seems kind of asinine to me that running 50 miles is recorded on some, arbitrary website like Ultra Sign Up as a did not finish. And then you've got to go in and create, it cascades this whole entire culture of like, now you got to do your DNF post and you got to talk about how, it's not about the finish, it's about the journey, and that we're all better because of what we did. And showing up at the start line is, the battle. And, it creates this whole lexicon, I think, that's just kind of a social construct if we just allowed us to celebrate what we actually fucking did.
Right.
Like it kind of ruffled me up a little bit. And this morning I'm already fired up again thinking about this stupid DNF culture that we self-impose on each other.
Yeah. Man, okay. I'll say this. I largely dislike your boy Scott Jurek's posts. Okay. That's my opening position. I think he's talent for days in his ability to exegete the trail running culture. So hear that as well. Massively impressed. But what he has made fun of really well, and I use a sophisticated word like exegete because I think the way that he's memeing is exposing silliness within the culture and allows people to laugh. So I'm saying all those things are important. So I also want you to hear, I like him. He makes fun of the DNF post pretty well. Like we're all in this for these other reasons. And I've lived in that world and I get it. I mean, on some levels, you got to make sense of it. You got to make sense of the world somehow. You've got to have some sort of like North Star guiding principle. If I failed at something, how do I make this not a waste? How do I need to look at this? I love all that. I love thinking through that. I love the headiness of that. But, then, you see, so Corinne Malcolm posts her DNF tale and everybody. So what does it say about the culture that they have to post their DNF thing? You know what I mean? It feels like surely it's authentic, and I'm sure they've learned these lessons that they put in there. But does anybody just say, well, DNF'd? Or does anybody just not even talk about it? Jim's always going to bring up his story of why he didn't finish in Chamonix. And so you got Corinne, everybody, not picking on Corinne, just she was the one that came to mind most recently. Hayden does it. These like beasts of the trail, like these killers, amazing competitors. And then they do their DNF post. Why do you think they have to do it?
I don't think they have to do anything, no. But I think a lot of people who are in trail running are philosophical, right? We spend,
absolutely,
we spend a lot of time by ourselves and in our own heads. And so it would make sense that we would want to archive that experience. I think we're communal, so we want to share it with others and, hope to inspire others through that story or, encourage others or help others. Right. So you don't have to know, but I think it's a good opportunity to connect with people when you do. But again, like we're getting sidetracked because like the core of this is like the amateur runner, not the professionals. The professionals we'll unpack a second here, but like you and I, like, the average Joe, like you sign up for a 100 miler and you get to mile 75 and your day's over and you did not finish. Like, where did it really come from? Like in no other sport, like I go have a bad round of golf, I shoot like 10 strokes worse than I wanted to. I still have a score. It's not, hey, did not finish.
I see.
I still have something accomplished.
Yeah.
Within the sport. Why are we allowing the sport to just be this like such a binary thing? Like where it's like you signed up for a 100 miler, you ran 60, you are a DNF, right? Like does Ultra Sign Up need a competing site that archives things a little bit differently and kind of competes for the narrative of how the sport works.
Okay, I'm tracking with you, but I don't know. I'm not tracking insofar as I have some creativity to support you. So help me. What could be another metric? If you made it 60 and 100 miles, what's another way of thinking about that?
Yeah, whatever
What shows up?
whatever the next distance is that the race would have offered. Like, I
Mm.
don't think I mean, there might be, I mean, even if they don't offer it, like, let's say it's a 100-miler, right? And they don't offer the 100K, but you've gone 61.2 miles or greater, then the race would just designate it beforehand. At this aid station, once you eclipse this aid station, you have successfully finished the 100K. If you drop somewhere later on, you'll be considered a dropped 100-mile runner who completed a 100K. If you drop at this aid station, you are a 50-mile complete or 50K, whatever. Like, we can get into the details there, but somehow, set this up. It's not about participation awards. The guy's actually fucking running 60 miles. So it's not some sort of like sentimental, like soppy Hallmark card that you're getting for completing 5K out of the 100K. I'm not going down that path. I'm not soft in that nature, but like, it just kills me. Like, we talk about how uplifting this sport should be, and then you just get stamped with like a red DNF mark.
The scarlet letter.
60 miles. Yeah.
Okay, now I'm with you, and I love this. And here's where my mind immediately goes: is I think there is some utility to say, what did you start out to do that day, and did you do it? But should you not? So I don't know. I see it as two columns.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, so my working example of this in my mini DNFs at the 100-mile distance, 8 of 10 DNFs at the 100-mile distance, I ran, let's see, 1 year I ran Zion. 5 times. Both of my finishes were at Zion, 3 DNFs there. But 1 year I ran it and I came in, I don't remember, my math's going to be a little bit off. I was 2 miles. There's an aid station there in the Virgin Desert there was just a sign like, hey, you're coming in here. You're doing the 100-miler. The course route is such that if you want to downgrade to the 100K right now, turn right 2 miles. And if you want to do the 100-miler, turn left. Well, I came into that aid station and I was maxed, and my, number of problems, who knows if they were real. I probably made them up in my head. I think at this point I'm pretty convinced that all my DNFs are purely in my head. And I quit, and someone's like, no, you keep going, just turn right. Take 2 miles, take that. You can walk that in. You can walk those 2 miles in an hour or 2 hours if you want. You got plenty of time. I was like, that's not what I'm here for. I'm here for the 100-miler. So I'm going to quit. I'm going to quit now. I'm not going to quit in 2 miles. And I have no regrets. But to your point, I wonder how it would change things if we knew that there were 2 columns, because Lord knows we run on oftentimes simply so it'll show up on Strava. Would it change how we run races if we know it's going to show up on an Ultra sign up? Because everybody I talk to, before I do an interview on the podcast or anything, I go to their Ultra sign up page and check them out. I size them up. Right. I learn about who they are. So I got to imagine the same way that Strava forces us to make bad decisions in our training, a change in Ultra sign-up metrics would do the same, but in a really fun way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
that's good.
I mean, runners are so, manic and anal about their Strava runs that they'll jog in a parking lot for 0.2 miles to get to the nearest whole mile, right? But we won't go 2 miles down the trail to get to the whole 100K finish. No, just DNF here, right? So maybe if somehow Strava linked into Ultra sign up, so it would show you that in that DNF you went 60 miles, because not every DNF's the same, right? You're looking at some dude's Ultra sign up and it says DNF and it says 80 miles. You're like, well, that dude went 80 miles into his DNF journey. The other guy pulled the plug at mile 31. Like, not all DNFs are created the same.
Gosh, good point. For someone who's DNF'd 100 so many times and tries to slay that beast, and I hope to do it 20 more times to try. Great point. I would love to know that, to see that. Yeah, at Bryce 1 year, it was 36 miles, but every other one has been north of 50. Bryce another year was mile 51, but Zion has been a DNF at 78, 60, and 50.
Right.
I mean, 36 versus DNF at 78. That's just enjoyable, regardless of its utility. That's enjoyable data to be able to call up on my ultra sign up page itself to not have to drill down. That's a really great idea.
Right. So
I'm sending this
now,
podcast to the owners of Ultra Sign Up, David and Jay.
yeah.
I'm going to make
just
them
have
listen.
Strava, get a partnership with Strava and just have the activity that the runner's feed from Strava link into Ultra Sign Up. And there you go.
That's fun. Okay, then
Yeah,
what do you? No, you go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. So the elites, right? So I think that's a whole different concept because elites go into races with much different intentions than most all of us do, right? Like maybe once I've gone into a 50K race where I said, I'm going out at, a suicide pace and I'm okay DNFing this one if it doesn't come together. And I DNF'd it, right? So like that was the time where I gave myself the freedom to do that, right? Go out and race it like a 5K and see what happens just out of curiosity's sake, right?
That's awesome.
And that's basically the professional life of how they race. Like every time you're running with that mindset. So I get their DNF. They have injury avoidance. They've got a livelihood to make off of it. It's not just a hobby.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I have to wonder too, like what kind of scar tissue does the DNF have on a elite runner? Because we're starting to see some elite runners who are collecting DNFs now to where almost, they go a full calendar year with nothing but DNFs.
Wow.
And that's crazy.
The psychology of that. No doubt there's something in depth to explore in the psychology. My mind immediately goes to, as a fan, because they race so rarely, I want to see them go all out. I love that. Go out like a 5K at 100 mile or whatever. But if they burn out, I want them to quit. I want them to DNF, because as hard as it is to wait so long between races, and being a Jim Walmsley fan, I went to Western States in 2019. I wanted to see him get the win, and it was the year that he got like 14:09, 14:04. Jared Hazen got 14:23. I loved that day. If I had been at UTMB this year when Jim Walmsley DNFs, or previous years when he DNFs, I'd be really disappointed, but I'm only disappointed because I wanted to see him win that day. The year that Jim hung in and got fourth, going up that hill with the cattle and all that sort of stuff. He knows his body, and he's surrounded by people that are supportive and helpful. I don't care about your fourth place finish. Save what you got. Don't hurt yourself. Come back to the next race and win it. That's what I'm here for, and that's what you get paid for. Back to the discussion about Courtney. We have this perception that because it's outdoor and outdoor sports, that everyone's just out doing work on their soul. Now, I am, and I'm paying for it. I have a day job. But these people out there are working. So I want to see you out there winning. And if you're not going to win, DNF. Just fold it. Save everything you have. Don't hurt yourself. I get it. Jim finished UTMB because he needed to close the loop. There's a psychology to that. So I celebrate that. He made the right choice. That's not what I'm questioning. But I'm there to see my favorite person win. If you're not going to win, just quit. Save it.
Yeah. It's just crazy. Even like something like cycling, you watch the Tour de France and these these riders who, are supposed to contend for the victory, and, by early on in the tour, they're kind of already out of it. Right. But like, they're still going to finish. Like they finish the stages. They still,
that is a really good comparison.
They still finish the tour, right? They still get something out of it that I just can't imagine. Like it's really underappreciated how hard it's got to be a professional ultra runner, specifically like the 100-mile distance. Like, you go out and have a bad marathon, you're still finishing the marathon. Maybe you're just 5 to 10 minutes slower than what you wanted as an elite runner. Like you still finished. Like it's wild.
Is there another sport where people just don't finish?
I don't know. Maybe
really
like
funny.
Mountaineering, right? Like maybe you want to go summit Everest or some other sort of like, this monumental peak, and you just don't do it because usually it's weather, permitting, not so much physical, but I can't think of anything else that you build up for and then you go and attempt it, and it's just a sum zero game. It's all or nothing.
Yeah, really, really interesting to think about it on that level. If I and looking, you think about other sport, NASCAR, whatever, you finish. It's not even, unless you get in a major accident, it's not even in the
Right.
consciousness. Like when the Yankees were down 3 games to none in the series, they still had to go play again because there was still a fighting chance. They could come back. Red Sox did it to them in what, 04 or something like that, down
Right.
3 games. You still show up, and in that sport, maybe you can come back and when you're down 3-0. Yeah, but then in our sport, you can just quit. That's
So,
wild. It makes sense because it's hard. Yeah, but I only want to give the excuse to amateurs that it's hard. Of course it is. Maybe you didn't have time to try, but if you're professional, that's just it's thought provoking, if nothing else.
right. So I don't know. I think maybe we'll see the sport evolve. That's what this conversation's about, right? So
Yeah,
maybe people
yeah,
haven't even thought about should the DNF be something that we revisit and revise within the sport at the amateur level. It just seems like you started it off with your boy Scott Jurek. Like it just seems like I ran 72 miles and all I got was this DNF post.
right. Yeah.
So
Huh. Well, did you hear about the Russian plane?
yeah,
So Marley Dickinson, who had on the show, wrote the article, got the tip that Runbuck, I think that's how you
yes,
say it, was taking some runners in a Russian plane, a sanctioned Russian plane, meaning if you're an American or Canadian, or British, you do not get on a Russian plane. But this company, like straight out of like Looney Tunes, took all of the Russian insignia and logos on the plane and they covered it with a sticker, actively trying to conceal the fact that it was this Russian aircraft and Russian company. And when Marley published the article, the plane was in the air carrying 15 people from South Africa to Antarctica to run a 24-hour race. And these people are paying $10,000 a piece, something like that, for this race. The same company, they're the ones who put on the 7 marathons in 7 days on 7 continents. And so I got marketed too for that. I was like, wow, that's really interesting. How do they even handle that logistically? Well, the answer is that you use a Russian airliner and you put stickers over it. And they're making a lot of money per runner. And they're putting their runners in a really dicey situation. And that is, if you're an American, you're on that plane, our government's not happy with you. Where does your mind go on this? It's a bizarre thing. It's geopolitical in its nature, but it's a running company. Like, where do you go?
I just don't think it's going to be major news because it's just if this was UTMB, then I would say that this would be
People have been
you
waiting for
know
this.
this would be the Gary Robbins Whistler debacle 2.0. This
Yeah.
would be UTMB Russia gate. So I mean I don't think this is going to really move anybody's. I don't think anybody's going to be really fired up about it. Like, I think we'll all
Yeah.
agree that basically, like, these people are schmucks. Like, this is clear violation. Like, I think hopefully the affluent people who can afford this, because I think it was something like 20 some $1,000 per person or whatever the cost was. Like, hopefully this affluent community, realizes that this is no longer a company they can trust
Yeah.
to travel safely, right?
Yeah.
Internationally, right? Or just do things with, morals and ethics that you would expect from a business that is handling something this sophisticated.
Yeah. And I just want to, because I kind of teed it up for you and you didn't swing at it. So I just want to throw it out there. $20,000 per person to run the 7 marathons, 7 continents, 7 days, which is similar to Coca-Cola prices. That's your joke, not mine.
Yes. Yes.
But-
I was going to get to it in the second round. But
Okay.
you
I just
got
didn't
it,
want that to be lost. That's too good.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think.
Go ahead.
Just to keep harping on it, like this is where, like, kind of like we pick and choose the moral soapbox we want to stand on and boycott or rally around and light the torches and get the pitchforks out and really demonize a group, right? Like UTMB got in trouble because they had Dacia as a sponsor, right? Who was in the auto industry. Here's a group that's taking a 747 type. I mean, this is a huge passenger,
it's enormous
commercial economy jet, right? And they're filling it with 25 runners. Right? 25 runners, right? So like this, when you want to talk about carbon footprint,
right?
Our sport does not have a carbon footprint allowance or conscious, because here are people who can afford to go to Antarctica.
Yeah.
Right. There's also probably people who are upset and angry now that they're learning that we do ultras on Antarctica. That should be protected land. Nobody should touch foot on it. So we're traveling to a sacred land by commercial airline with only 25 passengers on a Russian branded plane. Like, this seems like it should be something that really lights the fire under, the activism.
Wakes up the activist. Yeah.
I don't think it will.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you're probably right. I do love this UTMB take. And you brought up Gary Robbins, remind me of a conversation we also had offline. So I'll tee it up, and you'll be able to kind of build the house around it. Did you hear an interview with, was it Jason Schlarb, talking about his take on the Gary Robbins UTMB debacle? I remember you telling me it, and it was the first time I'd heard a take like this, and I found it to be refreshing. Is that sufficient to tee it up? Yeah,
I know where you're going with it. And again, I'm not going to, so I'm going to be paraphrasing, and certainly if I get anything wrong or misquoted, just don't quote me on it. But essentially the gist of it is that he was able to partition out basically like the issue that he was upset about Gary Robbins, and his personal impact, but also was able to simultaneously say that, hey, the Whistler UTMB event is the best and only opportunity right now to create a North American UTMB in Chamonix, right? Like basically like we can't lift the start line of the elite field in the men's and women's UTMB race and place it on hard rock. Okay, we want the hard rock course to run competitively like UTMB does. Like that would be fascinating to see them attack a mountainous course like that with the depth of field, but that'll never happen. Yeah. So what his alternative was, hey, this Whistler event does provide an opportunity where you can have the depth of field on a North American race course. And I think that's the direction that he was going with that.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. And I think on the level of what you were talking about with the plane flying from Russia to South Africa to Antarctica back, and all of the 25 millionaires who were able to get to South Africa and how they got there and all this, there should be some celebration around that. In as much as it's true, let's assume it is for the conversation. We should celebrate that if it's our great American runners and great Canadian runners, that the transportation and therefore let's say, I think they might say the carbon footprint, the emissions, all that sort of stuff is significantly less. And so we do have the chance almost, I think about the mountain, the big mountain, the beautiful area, UTMB's ability to facilitate it. And then I also believe that Gary Robbins' race is probably going to thrive. Assuming UTMB's thrives too, they can thrive at the same time. They can thrive together.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's definitely something where somebody goes over, maybe they run the UTMB Whistler event and they fall in love with the area. And then, they want to go back, but they want to now experience it through Gary Robbins' lens, right? Like, I just think that, bringing more people into the area will just lift, the entire race community, not just that weekend, right? But beyond, as people want to explore more and see what they've got to offer over there.
Yeah. I mean, UTMB, I was talking to a buddy here. He used to be the head of sport for Singapore, but did significant, he essentially facilitated bringing a UFC type sport to Myanmar. And he's looking to get this job at UTMB right now, because UTMB needs to grow in order to satisfy their business plan. They have to grow. They have to grow in Asia specifically, but really everywhere, because the idea is that you need to be able to run UTMB races in order to run the UTMB race, the main event. And if you live in certain parts of Asia and you're a great runner, you have to invest $10,000 to go get a couple of stones, a few stones, and you're not going to do that 3 times. So they're missing out on a massive amount of business from a business standpoint, massive amount of great runners who can't do that. So here we are in America saying, hey, if UTMB is inevitable, if it's an inevitable thing, if the Ironman deal, it's like, this is happening, it's going here. I don't think the World Trail Majors is going to even touch what UTMB is trying to do. If it's an inevitable force, then we need Whistler, and we need all of them, and we need Gary. We need what Gary's doing, but we need it. We need that. I like Jason's take, and I like your paraphrase of it.
Yeah, I mean, because I get some type of fatigue towards UTMB, right? Every year it's just, it's Chamonix. You always are going back to the same place with this, knowing that that's the only place that's going to provide you with the depth of field. And so, it would be great. Like, I've always thought it would be like, why can't we just lift that same starting line and drop it somewhere in the United States? But again, we're handcuffed by, the preservation and protection of the lands, which is kind of like, I mean, I don't know, to me, it kind of like seems a little hypocritical, right? Like with protecting lands and, being environmentally conscious, we'll outsource that though to Europe. We're fine if Europe wants to have thousands run their trails, we'll go and participate in the abuse of the trails. So we're not so concerned about the actual physical land, because as long as we get an okay to do it, as long as a government official or body tells us it's okay to go and abuse this land, we'll do it. At home,
not in my backyard.
Come on now, like it would seem like I tease that a little bit. I pick at that because it's like, I mean, the trails at Mont Blanc, when I see them, they still look beautiful. They still look managed. They still look like they're authentic.
Yes. Yeah.
So why could it? What's the case for us not being able to accommodate that here? We're not capable of doing the same things that they do.
Let me drive it home. There was a runner who, because of the Dacia car company sponsoring UTMB, back to that point, he said, I'm not running UTMB this year. I am not going to go. This was last year. And to drive the point home, I don't even remember who said it. And that guy was not at UTMB. And guess what? Now no one has any idea what that guy's been up to the last 2 years. And there may be a whole bunch of people who have throwing that out there, and then they're not going. And now we have no idea who they are. So I don't know. I mean, I don't necessarily know the overall answer, but I do like this idea, regardless of why, of being able to have that. I want that in my backyard. And if the closest we can get is to, what did someone call it the other day? America's top hat, Canada, I'll go there. That's awesome.
Right. But ultimately, I'd like it to be here,
Yes.
But it seems like the conversation, there's not much appetite in the trail space by, most of the community and, the people who run the races to try or, even advocate for larger race fields, right? Like to expand permits, right? Or I don't know, maybe it's just a government agency thing where they just get an iron fist that's, basically unpenetrable. But it seems like we kind of also agree that we shouldn't have more people running the Western States Trail, for example, or we shouldn't have more people running Hard Rock. Like it seems like we kind of fall in line with that and embrace the preservation, standpoint.
Yeah. So Texas, I believe, is 97% privately owned land, 3% public lands, but it's not conducive to, a competitor. It would seem like, I would wonder if there was, if there was a state that some of this wilderness, there was larger wilderness areas that were privately owned. Wyoming might come to mind. I wonder if that could be a solution where someone caught the vision and they essentially had a Woodstock where that guy just had that land in New York and let everybody come to it. It'd be amazing if the community could rally around a private land 100-miler. I think about like The Outsiders or something like that, like where they all have their car, their headlights are what are lighting it up. It's like just this badass grassroots. These are the best. I don't know if private lands are a solution. I don't know if people like private land that much.
Right. That would be a cool image, though, to see all these.
Oh, wouldn't that be great?
Yeah.
See Jim step out of the car with a car with like suicide doors and like come out and like they're literally just going to go for it, like 100-miler grassroots.
Yeah. Especially if they're gas powered carburetor engine,
Yeah.
Really just get that nice smell wafting at the start line,
Yeah, take full advantage of it being private land.
Yeah.
But okay, so sometimes I'm out running and when on my better days when I'm on trail, and I don't know, the culture around unleashed dogs on trails. And to be honest, I don't even know the rules. Are they allowed to be off leash? Are they supposed to be on leash? I imagine some of these foothill trails that I love so much in Salt Lake, they've got to be on leash. But it's probably my least favorite thing in the world to run up on a dog on a trail. And when the owner then looks at you like, the dog like jumps on me while I'm running, and the owner looks at me like, oh, isn't this cute, my dog? Yeah, that stuff kills me. You run into dogs out there?
Yeah. I mean, dogs are, hikers' best friends, companions.
I love dogs, by the way.
Yeah.
I love them. I just don't like getting jumped on while running.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think I've heard this is definitely a topic I think all of us kind of vent privately, because nobody wants to kick a dog while it's down, right? Like the dogs, they're always, sympathetic, everybody's dog owners. But yeah, I mean, it's like, come on, man, have a little bit of etiquette, right? Like, get your dog leashed up. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I've had people, I think, who have been injured, by trying to avoid, a dog trail, a dog that was on trail. You make a sudden move or, just something that was unplanned, and you roll your ankle and you're just like, damn, dude, like this stupid dog.
What about e-bikes? They're kind of the same thing to me.
Yeah. That's what I was telling you. It was like, kind of like, how, if we were to have a head-to-head matchup, right, of like, if we could just remove one from the trail experience, it would be hard to pick, right? The off-leashed dog versus the, general mountain biker. The e-bike guy goes even a notch up, I think, of the general mountain biker, because he's kind of an asshole even going uphill. Usually if you're going uphill, you're passing the mountain bikers, and it's kind of the one opportunity that you can exchange pleasantries with each other, because they're going slow enough and they're not as, focused on their trail. But the e-bike guy, no, he's still just blasting by you.
Yeah, I feel like I don't even know, like, it blows my mind. I think being on the e-bike would probably be a blast. It's just like, I don't know. I mean, as a runner, like, just the number of times they're so quietly just flying up right behind you, not quite knocking you over, but then yelling like I'm in their way. And I am in their way, but pretty crazy.
Yeah. The mountain biker, I think, is the thing that we encounter most over here. A lot of trails are basically, there's a big mountain biking community. They do a lot of trail work. So, I mean, I think, they do kind of like, buff out the trails so that they're, they've got the berms in the right places and, these little jumps. So, like, they're maintaining the trail, but are they abusing it in a way that, it's not its natural landscape anymore, right? So it's like there's a case to be made that yes, they're doing trail maintenance, but they're really doing trail alterations more so than anything. So, I can't stand that. There's certain areas over here where, like, they're well known, like, downhill sections, and I mean, these guys are just ripping downhill, but it's like part of the trail. So it's like I'm coming up and I'm having to jump off trail just to avoid this guy screaming down. Yeah, it's
not the thing good. I want. And going in the winter, I guess it's a little bit less. I don't mind I get running with the dog because of the big game. I hate big game. I hate running into, I'd ring anything. I'm typically a fraidy cat out there, but I don't love the dog jumping on me, especially in the cold. Running in the snow, maybe it's a little bit less, get a little bit more solitude out there, but yeah, I don't know. If you got a dog and you run with them off leash, I do absolutely love you, and I do love your dog, but get off my lawn.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's just, I would like to think that the right mindset when you're bringing your dog into a trail is to assume everyone you encounter is afraid of dogs.
Yeah.
Don't assume that everybody has a comfort level with dogs and, should already know that your dog is, basically part human and is going to greet you with just, the sweetest, kindest heart, right? Like,
Yeah.
I think sometimes you just get a little comfortable knowing your dog's behavior and assuming everybody else just engages with dogs with the same assumption.
Yeah. I mean, to prove I'm a dog person, like we literally waited to do this family traveling around the world until our dog passed. And that was an indefinite thing. And when our dog passed, that kind of helped, was one of the many doors that opened for us. I like dogs. So that's important because I'm sure most people aren't going to love the final minutes of this. Anyway, training, how's it going? We'll wind down with training. Are you out every morning still? Saw some big miles, speedy miles.
Yeah, we're having to pivot. Like that's the life of an ultra runner with a family and a wife, and she bought a travel trailer a couple weeks ago, and we're fully gutting that thing before a trip here in a couple weeks, right? So it's basically we've got an insane amount of work to do on the trailer and a short time to do it, and so running's going to have to pivot a little bit to make sure that I'm not all banged up and not wanting to get out there on my knees and do stuff. But I mean, she's taken over most of the,
remodeling,
the decorating and everything. But yeah, exactly. Something always new to kind of derail the plans that we thought we had. We build out these nice, beautiful 15-week plans, and life doesn't work that way.
Yeah. Well, all right. Going into the colder months, there's less events. I mean, there's certainly going to be some fun Southern Hemisphere stuff as, Tarawera. I think, that's February. There's just not going to be a ton to talk about. So if you listen to these episodes with Brian and I, and you have any thoughts on stuff you want to hear us talk about, please let us know. Leave a comment if you listen on Spotify, or shoot us emails or direct messages on Instagram. That's where we're most active. But
if you're still tuned in, let us know if we need to unpack the election. We can certainly take a nice little 8-week break from Bad Runner's Take and get into the the political sphere.
Bad Runner's Take on politics.
Exactly right.
Winter edition of Ultra Runners.
We would be remiss to not mention the amount of DNF themed stories and posts that were made by our trail friends on the social medias yesterday. So
they were very DNF-y.
We could possibly, have a topic there of, comparing the different posts that you saw that were in the same spirit of the DNF posts. So maybe a topic.
Send them along. Send along your favorites, and we'll see. We'll just see if there's any momentum here.
Yeah, little reaction video.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's do this again soon.
All right, boss.
See you.